Alright, we're wiring up our 2-wire pulse width modulated idle valve. This is your standard forward idle valve. And it uses this green wire on the MegaSquirt main board harness. It's wire number 30 and it says PWM idle, so pulse width modulated idle. I'm going to pull this back through my harness and hook it up to my valve here. So I'm going to dig through here and try to find it. There it is. A lot of good information for this wire, anything to do with MegaSquirt, Tuner Studio. You can find on www.msextra.com. They got all kinds of manuals, no matter if you got an old school MegaSquirt 1, an MS2, MegaSquirt 2, an MS3, an MS3X, even the new MS Pros and all that stuff. They got manuals for every single one of them, and it helps a lot figuring this stuff out. So if you look here, a 2-wire forward idle valve, all it has is power, and then it has a signal return, or ground wire basically. It goes back to the PCM, and the PCM controls the ground side to open and close the valve. So if you look at on my harness, on this Mustang 04 Mustang harness, factory harness, common sense would say red's power wire, which on this it is, and you can tell by just by looking at the gauge of the wire. The power wire is a larger gauge than the signal wire, so I'm going to hook up my green signal wire to the ground side, which is a smaller wire, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This sized up. The harness that comes from DIY Auto Tune, they sell, I believe, a 3 or 4 foot lead harness, and it's on 8 foot. I got the 8 foot because some of the wires are going to be quite a ways from the computer, so I wanted to have enough wire. So you'll be trimming a lot of them, and you'll have a lot of extra wire, but it's good quality automotive wire, so you can use it for other shit. So let me grab my solder here and my torch, and we will get this soldered in, and that'll be one less thing I gotta worry about. Okay, let me trim this wire back. Get me a piece of heat shrink. It's always good to heat shrink it, man, if you're having any kind of wiring connection outside the car. Heat shrink it, whether it's with this type of heat shrink or if you're using butt connectors. Make sure you're using like the 3M style ones that have the glue, the sealer inside. So you crimp them, and then you heat it up with a torch, and it's just like heat shrink, and it's got glue that comes out. And if you're using heat shrink like this, make sure you get the kind that has the glue inside, because there's standard kind that just shrinks and there's nothing else to seal it. And then this type has a sealer inside of it that when you heat it, it melts and it flows out to the end, seals the wire, and then you ain't got to worry about water and all that kind of crap getting in your connections causing the issues. So let's grab us a piece here. I got this off Amazon for like $8 or $9. Big kit. It's made in China, of course, kind of like everything on Amazon, it seems like. But it says Ginsco, Ginsco 270 piece 3-to-1 shrink ratio shrink kit black/red, and the part number is X001GW3U9P. But just basically search for, you know, Jinsco 270 piece 3-to-1 heat shrink tube and make sure it's the type with the glue in it, and that'll get you what you need. So I'll put my heat shrink on here. And let's see, so it's this wire here, so I'll go ahead and get these soldered together. Like I said, I use the W style when I put my wires together to heat shrink them, because it just holds it better even before you put solder in it. It's a good solid connection, so go ahead and get this done up. Let me put my towel down because I'm going to lose a little bit of solder here. Okay, take my heat shrink and put it over my connection. Go ahead and shrink it up. Okay, so now I'm going to leave this wire here, the power wire, because I am going to be getting a small fuse block. Then I'm going to power off that connection over there, and then I'll wire in my fused power to my idle valve, fused power to both banks of injectors, fused power to the, what else does it want? It wants power to the idle valve. Let me make sure you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Let me get it zoomed in for you. So it wants, oops, sorry guys. It wants power, fused power from the fuse block to the idle valve. It wants power to both banks of injectors here. It wants fused power to your wideband or your narrowband, depending on what you're using, but I definitely recommend getting a wideband if you're going to put this kit on. So power to your wideband, so wideband, injectors, idle air control valve, to your ignition coils, and then to your fuel pump. Basically you're feeding fused power to the relay for the fuel pump. So see what else they got on there. I think that might be it. Oh, and you got fused power that supplies power to the main connector on the MegaSquirt main harness. So basically how they got it routed is you're running off the battery a fused input to the ignition circuit, which if you have a fuel injected car you're going to have that probably anyways. And then off of the ignition switch you're running switched power to a main relay that's going to power up the entire fuse block. So that's what that is. So we're going to leave that open until we get the fuse block, which we'll have later this week probably, and we'll get that wired in at the same time. So there's that. Okay, so that's wired in. Like I said, I'll wait to loom this until I got this wire set up for it, and then we'll get that wired in. And so let's see what's next. We got our cam sensor next. Actually, no, we got our mass airflow sensor that we can wire in. These vehicles, this 04 Mustang, so anything 04 and prior is going to use a older school like 4 or 5 pin. It's kind of like a oblong shape, an egg shape connector on it. And Ford mass airflow sensors have the older ones just do mass airflow load basically in a barrel. But we updated to a 05 and newer slot style, and we are upgrading to that, so it has intake air temp integrated into it. So we got to wire intake air temp connectors from this wiring harness into that. So let me grab that and we'll get that mounted, mocked, and then we can wire in our harness to it. So this is the type of sensor I'll be using. Get this it's a slot style Ford sensor. This is a BA 5000 from SCT, but it's basically a redone Ford 05 and newer slot slot style mass airflow. Jesus, if I could spit it out. And like I said, it's integrated with the intake. I'll get you the harness layout pin out here, picture of it. See if I can get it to focus. So as you see on here, damn it. Got your pin number 1, and you're gonna stay in focus. Pin number 1, intake air temp. Pin number 2, signal return for the intake air temp. Pin 3 is your MAF out back to the PCM. Pin 4 is your MAF return ground. That you're going to go back to the PCM. Then 5 is just your standard ground, which you can go to the engine, the cylinder head. And then pin 6 is your V-power, your 12 volt input. That's a picture of the connector there and the pin numbers. But so that's that. We will get this connector off and get it wired in, and I'll be back with you once we get to that point. We are wiring in our mass airflow connector, and on this harness, mass airflow harness, the blue wire is the MAF out wire. So this is the wire that's going to go back to the MegaSquirt, to the PCM. And on the MegaSquirt, I am using the on the MS3X wiring harness, I am using the spare ADC wire number 21. That's they got 3 spare 0 to 5 volt analog circuits that you can use to wire in different stuff like extra O2 sensors, an external map, anything to 0 to 5 volts. Ford mass airflow sensors and almost all mass airflow sensors, except for some LS1 stuff, are a 5 volt reference sensor that sends back a reduced voltage to PCM, and the PCM decodes that for load on the engine. So got this. I'm going to wire it in. My mass airflow, I'll show you where it's going to be mounted. It's in the cold side piping and get this soldered up, and then I'll show you that. Okay. Grab my damn towel. Excuse me, guys. Okay. Go ahead and slide my heat shrink over. Okay. Alright. So we got that. Let me pull you off of here and show you where the mass airflow will be. I'm going to show you this too, how these heat shrink connectors, see if I can get it to focus in on it. Let me see. Come on, baby. Sorry guys, this thing is just trying hard. I don't know if you can see, but on the end of this heat shrink, you can see the glue coming out. You see that glue there? That's how nice these are to seal up. But the mass airflow is going to be this damn camera. It's going to be off the bottom of that intercooler. Can't see it, but that outlet below that tube there is going to come up. It's going to swing around there, and it's going to come up through this far hole right there. My mass airflow is in a straight piece of pipe there, mounted in there. On the pipes over here, I just got it sitting here. You can see right here is the mount for it, and then goes through a straight piece of pipe up into the engine there. So that's what we're doing there. And so I'll get you put back on tripod, and we'll finish wiring in the rest of the wires and the intake air temp sensor. And we'll move on.